Hi everyone. It's so good to have you on another episode of Circle Direct Podcast. I'm your host, Ifedayo. Today is going to be our talk on multivitamins. You know how it is that this multivitamin that we keep hearing about, should I take it? I'm already eating well. I'm having a balanced diet. My children are thriving. Do I really need to take them? Well, I'm going to give you all the lowdown on everything multivitamin. Multivitamins are very essential for you, especially when you have a growing up child. From infancy, even remember how we have made it mandatory for pregnant women to be on what? Folic acid for essential development of a child's spinal cord. And research has also shown the role multivitamins, especially the ones that are the vitamin E, the role it plays in fertility. So today we're going to discuss on the necessary vitamins we need, especially for growing children, the reasons why it needs to be taken, and the sources to get the best ones from. It's good to have you on today's show. Now we're going to be discussing supplements. We're going to be discussing the necessary need for supplementations, even with children. Now look back. There was a time that government started making it mandatory for certain companies that produce children formulas to fortify such products with essential vitamins such as calcium. And it was because they discovered a prevalence of children having malnourishment issues. Then there were also cases in the upper north where they discovered issues with kwashiorkor and other debilitating diseases because children were not properly being nourished with the food they ate. So if the children were going to be taking some certain formulas, especially at their infancy phase, it has to have the vitamins and minerals that would ensure that the child thrives very well. So we had vitamins such as A, C, and D that were being included in formulas, so that anytime a child that is taking those formulas is being given to that child, at least even if the mother is breastfeeding the child, they know that the child is getting adequate nourishment from the formulas. There are instances whereby a mother, even though she's lactating, she's not producing enough milk to meet the needs of the child. So she has to add formulation to it. And it will be of a very negative consequence for the child to now be taking formula, by the end of the day being deprived of the essential vitamins that the child will need to thrive. So that's when the government started imposing laws. We can also remember the phases where iodine was being included in salt, so that at least anyone that takes your salt with your food, there is essential iodine added to the meal. Now, why would you take vitamins? Look at the mother. She's getting ready for school. She has to get the children prepared. She has to get the food ready and other intricacies of school preparation. And she also has to ensure that the food is well balanced. Because of the fast-paced life of every individual now, they might not be getting adequate nourishment from their food. So imagine a mother wants to prepare the meal. The meal is not adequate. She would want to include a multivitamin. So it's very, very good for inclusion of multivitamins to the children's meal time. We're going to now discuss that for the meals to be well balanced, even though, yes, the child should have all the 6 classes of foods included, we are also going to now include on why the vitamins are necessary and the ones that play the major role. We're going to talk about immune boosting. For the mothers that have to resume office and they have to take their child to creche, it has been shown that most of the time, if not out of the ordinary, those children tend to develop upper respiratory tract infections. They tend to start having cold and catarrh. So when you start giving such children things like vitamin C, vitamin A, it improves and boosts their immunity. Even look at the case of children that have diarrhea. Now we have started seeing the inclusion of zinc tablets, which also helps to reduce the rate of the diarrhea and also helps to replace lost electrolytes. So when a child is coming down with cold, coming down with frequent bouts of catarrh, and the flu-like symptoms, it's good to include vitamin A, vitamin C, and even vitamin D. Then, of course, we are now going to talk about bone formation in growing children. You know how it is. When your child is growing, they're out, they play, they are on the field, they are going out with their friends, there will always be the chance of the child having a fall, or there will be a crack. It's not as if parents would wish that, but there's no how. Growing children are very energetic children. So it's always good to ensure that those children, their bones are forming properly. And how do you do that? By including vitamin D and calcium. The beauty of including vitamin D in your child's formulation is that the vitamin D enhances the absorption of calcium into the bone, and phosphorus also. So when the child is growing up, it's also essential that the bones are formed well and there are no issues with a bit of bone malformation. There's also been a case of children developing rickets, even when the children are on, in quotes, a balanced diet. So when your child is being fortified, their meal times are being fortified with vitamin D, you already know that a case of having bone deformations is reduced to the barest minimum. Then we now have the case of cognitive abilities. I mean, why is your child going to school if not to do well academically? So there are some vitamins like your B complexes that are essential for brain development. This helps for tissue repair and cell rejuvenation. So when the child is taking the B6, the B12, the B3, it helps the child to improve memory. Cognitive abilities are drastically improved. Then concentration also, because we have some of these children that when they're in the class, they're always fidgeting. They lose concentration easily. Of course, we also have to put blame on the inclusion of fizzy drinks in children's diet. When the child has a rush of sugar, it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult for them to concentrate well. But when the children have things that will stimulate the brain to retain information, they will be more attentive in class. So they'll be able to retain everything their teacher is teaching them. Then we also have the case of when maybe a child is going through some certain ailments, maybe the child is recovering from some diseases. Is essential that the child is well supplemented. Then we have to look at it from the angle of even when a child has a balanced diet. Just because you are feeding your child the vegetables, you are giving your child oranges, because I've had parents that will say, oh, but we take fruits every day. Oh, but we do this. Do you know that for you to have the required amount of vitamin C for at least on a daily basis, you have to take 17 oranges? I mean, let's look at it. Who would have the time to be peeling and squeezing 17 oranges individually? But you know that by the time you just go to your pharmacy, get your vitamin C syrup, and you just take maybe 5 to 10 mils of that vitamin C, you are getting the required amount of the vitamin C the child needs. And vitamin C is very good against cold. It's also even good for, metabolism. So these are things that your child will need. So though multivitamins are essential for your children to take during their formative years, you cannot take away the role of a well-balanced diet. I know when I'm talking about well-balanced diet, I'm not saying just rice and stew or yam and egg, but you put all the necessary classes of foods that the child will use to thrive. So your lean meat, and when I say lean meat, I mean where you're going to put protein. Don't put in the things that are full of fats. Like, you want to give them fried chicken. It's best to go for things that are, yes, even if you're going to give them meat, make sure that the meats are well processed, they're not fried. Then, of course, when they're taking wholesome grains, make sure that the things that are going to take that includes fiber, the carbohydrates would have fiber in them so that it will be aiding digestion. Leafy greens should be there. Their vegetables should be there. Vegetables that were properly cooked, they were not exposed to extreme levels of heat. Then, of course, you also have to include your essential oils. If in as much as possible, minimize frying. Don't include too much of the fried foods in their diet. In the places where you want to give them anything fried, why don't you put it in the oven and grill it? Then now we're going to now discuss what are the key things to look into when you're buying these multivitamins. The first thing is age. There are a lot of vitamins out there. There are vitamins for babies. There are vitamins for toddlers. There are vitamins even for teenagers. There are vitamins for young adults. There are vitamins even for the elderly. So when you're going to go for vitamins, ensure that you look at the packaging, because for every age and for every gender, there are specific amounts that the child should take. Secondly, you make sure that you are going for a reputable brand. There are a lot of vitamins that we have out there. I'm not going to be promoting any brand, but ensure that The brands that you're going to be buying from the market are brands that you are sure to guarantee precisely what they've written in the packaging. Then the third thing is always talk to your professional if you are not sure of what to buy. There are a lot of pharmacies that are ready and willing to give you, precise information. Then of course, your pediatrician, speak to him. Okay, you want to start giving your child this. There are some children that they are thriving very well, but maybe they have some bone issues. What kind of multivitamin should I give them? Oh, my child, he's growing well, but he's not excelling academically. He's easily distracted in the classroom. What vitamins should I give him? Your pediatrician or your healthcare practitioner will be willing to guide you on the best options you have available. Then remember that when you're also giving your child these vitamins, give them at the right dose. Some of these vitamins are very sweet to taste. And you know how children are. Anything that has to do with sugar, they might want to indulge in it. And at that case, it can lead to abdominal issues. So you must also be sure that wherever you are keeping these vitamins, it's out of reach of the children. You are following the recommended doses so that it will not lead to some cases of overdose, which can land the child in the hospital. Then another thing I would love to also, bring to your attention is that there are some vitamins that actually are very good to correct some challenges a child might have. For instance, if a child has rickets, bone malformation, the bones are bent, vitamin D is very, very good for that child. Of course, your doctor will write a prescription on the amount of the vitamin D and of course, including calcium. Then we also have a case of lead poisoning. You might be wondering, how can my child get lead poisoning? Sometimes from the food. You will never know what a child would be eating, and there will be contamination. So there's some other vitamins that are very, very good for the child to take when the child has lead poisoning. Then some children might be going through some certain level of chemotherapy, maybe due to some sort of cancerous growth, or some children might have some chronic diseases, that might be debilitating their health. There are also vitamins that are very essential for such children. I'm sure you'll be wondering that why am I really focusing on children in this discussion? Because these are children that are in their formative years. If you are able to quickly correct some issues when they are growing up, it will go a long way in reducing any sort of challenges they might have when they are growing up. Then, I might not have mentioned this, but I'm going to include the role of omega-3. We have omega-3, we have omega-6, we have omega-9. Omega-3 has been something that people really talk about, that, okay, they can get it from their fish, such as your mackerel, your Titus, or any fish that has an oily skin. But, you can actually now start getting your essential fatty acid, that's your omega-3, even in gummy form. So, those days when we were growing up, we only had it in liquid form, and the fishy smell, it can be a turn off for some children. But now they are gummies, they are sweetened drops that children, even chewable forms that children can take, that they would even be the ones that they will be telling you, Mommy, you've not given me my vitamins today. So another one I would love to recommend is that make sure that you are consistent when you are giving your children these multivitamins. The best time to give them is after food. So if you know that the best time is maybe during their lunch, or best maybe in the morning before they go to school, they can have a slice of bread or a cup of tea. After the cup of tea, they should just have their vitamin, and then they are good to go. So we've come to the end of today's episode on Circle Direct podcast. We believe that everything we always tell you are informative and cutting edge information. We are here to promote your health and well-being. So please do feel free to drop a comment on any other topic you love us to talk about. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Share this page with your friend. Always be willing to, spread the news, because we all want to live a long, lasting life. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. Until next time, have a great day.